Hello everyone, today I'm at Barnard Castle Cemetery, which opened I believe very early 1850s, and I've come to tell the story and visit the grave of somebody I know a bit of the history about, because it's from my own family this time. I don't actually do many videos at all about my own family, but I know a bit about this gentleman. This is my great grandfather, called Joseph Robert Gowling, who was born in Penrith back in 1869, and he was the son of a George Gowling who was a tailor who was born in 1817, so quite a big age gap when Joseph was born to his father. But his mother, a young lady called Mary Fisher, was 20 years younger than her father. And because of the age difference, I don't think the parents had approved. So George and Mary got married at Gretna, up at Gretna Green, because I think she was under 21. And I don't think the parents would have been too keen on her marrying George. But Gowling and Fisher, good Westmoreland names. They both were from over Walkup. And they had six children together. I'm just moving away because it's actually quite busy. Had 6 children together, but in 1871 George passed away in Newtown in Penrith of general exhaustion. His wife wasn't the witness of the death, so I don't know what had happened between the two of them, but she must have been pregnant, because in April the following year she gave birth to a girl called Dora, who would have been a posthumous child, as her father had died before she was born. So she'd brought the 6 children, now 7, to Barnard Castle, and they were living down, I think at this stage, in King Street in the town. God, I'm having to point away. There's been about 10 people walk past in about the last 5 minutes. But I'll just show you the cemetery chapel there while we wait for everybody to go past. It's a beautiful little building. It's actually now a family home. And this cemetery is just in Victoria Road, not far from the town centre. So Mary went and married another gentleman, a quarryman by the name of Henry Hardy Hutchinson, who was a bit of a ne'er-do-well, because they got married in October 1874, and by the December, just a couple months later, Mary had taken a new husband to the magistrate for assault, so it can't have been a happy relationship. And quickly her husband disappeared from history. She did have one child with him called Henry Hutchinson, but by 1881 Mary had got rid of Hutchinson. She wasn't using a maiden name, she was using the name Gowling, gone back to her dead husband's surname, and even a son must have disowned his father because he'd got rid of the name Hutchinson and called himself Gowling. As I stand here, the sun is just coming out. So Joseph Robert Gowling was my great-great-grandfather, and he actually became Barnard Castle's oldest man. He didn't actually die till 1965, 9 years before I was born. My mother remembers him. It was her grandfather, but he had a long life, and I think it was quite eventful. So what happened was, in 1888, he was a cabman, like a taxi with horses around Barnard Castle. His brother had a business, and they were often in scrapes with other taxi drivers at the Barnard Castle railway station, fighting for passengers and so on. He also got done because he duffed up a hawker who was selling ducks in a local pub. So that was his business. And in 1888 he married a lady called Agnes Coward, who, like him, was from over Westmoreland way. Now the Coward family were like itinerant farmhands. Basically they moved from farm to farm, so they'd gone from over like to Brough, just over, I think it was to Stainmore or Caber. Then they'd gone to Scargill near Bowes, then across to Dunsey Bank, which is near Kirby Hill, and then Agnes had been born in Ovington, And then eventually they'd settled at Westwick, which was near the Bose Museum. So they didn't have much money. And Agnes and Joseph got married in 1888, and they would have 11 children between them. Now sadly 3 of those died in infancy, but there was the 8 which survived to adulthood. I'm just going to read out the ages, I've got it on my phone somewhere. So one of these was my great-grand, Doris. Let's have a look. Got it here somewhere on my phone. She lived to 100, but this is the total separate ages for the 8 children. So there was 100, 104, 82, 88, 93, 86, 91 and 89. So they all lived to a long age, just like the father. But the father obviously died in 1965. Obviously he'd seen lots in his life. He would have lived through like the Boer War, the rise of the motor car, and the death of like the horse cab business, the First World War, the Second World War, TV, radio, and he actually ended up living in a council house in Dale Road in Barnard Castle. My dad lived quite close to him, even though he was no relation, but he remembers him. Old Man Gowling he was called, because he won an award that used to give awards out for the oldest people in Barnard Castle, and that's what he got. But there was a couple of sad things with his life. His wife Agnes was sent to Sedgefield Lunatic Asylum, and she spent many years in there, and she passed away in 1918. I've never found out where she was buried, but I think she was buried in one of the Sedgefield cemeteries. I don't believe there's any grave for her, and she was sort of just left over there. There was no death announcement in the local paper, but Joseph had brought up the other 8 children while she was in the asylum. And the sad twist of fate was Joseph's own sister Dora, who was that posthumous child. She was in Sedgefield Lunatic Asylum as well, and she died there. And also his wife Agnes, her sister died in Sedgefield Lunatic Asylum. So the 3 of them all died there, and I think they're all buried in unmarked graves. I have got the medical records, and it was inherited insanity, apparently was the term. We have all sorts, like the complexion, the height, and so on for that. So Joseph had a long life, along with 8 of his children, but in another twist of fate, sorry about that, somebody must be chopping some logs up or something. I'll tell you what, we'll walk up over here. So in the 1921 census, Joseph, just fate, isn't it, that somebody's really chopping sawing woods when I'm walking past. So in the 1921 census, Joseph lived at St Mary's Place, which is on Newgate and Barnard Castle. Here, he lived with his son and also 3 of his young daughters who were all over 16, including my great-gran. Now, the strange thing was, the 3 daughters, which includes my great-gran and 2 sisters, were all living as single women with illegitimate daughters, including my grandmother, my nana, Nellie. And when they'd come round on the census, first of all, that Joseph, as head of the household, had classed them as his nieces to try and sort of cover it up, and you can see it's scribbled out. Then he's admitted that to his grandchildren. So in all my time, I've never even come across a family where there's 2 daughters with illegitimate children, but in this instance it was actually 3, which is I've never heard of it, and I doubt it happened very often. So my nana, she never knew who her father was, or even had the death certificate. Nobody in the family knows, but I have a feeling my great-gran, it must have been a bit traumatic when she lost her mum at the asylum, that she might have gone off the rails a bit, because I think she was sent out of the ladies' army, well, it was at the Women's Royal Volunteer Service or something, in the Great War. She was serving down Doncaster, and I think she got discharged back to Barnard Castle. She went on to have about another 9 children after my nana, and moved away to Redcar, but my nana was left behind, and she was brought up by this gentleman, Mr. Joseph Robert Gowling. Now the purpose of this visit is to show you his grave. Now it's just over there, but by coincidence this is one of his children I said who mentioned too long ago. This is Joseph Robert, so he's my great grand's brother. He died in 1972, aged 82-year-old, so he was one of the 8 who lived to a good age. But the man this video is about, it's not him, that's Thomas Walker. It's down here. It was sadly broken a few years ago, but somebody who was his great granddaughter, I think one of her, I think it was her husband, apparently fixed it. So down here is in loving memory of my dear father, Joseph Robert Gowling. Died 19th of November, sorry I got the year wrong before, he died in 1964, aged 95 years, and he was at rest. So that's the final resting place of my great-great-grandfather, Joseph Robert Gowling. So a long life, quite eventful. I think he did voluntary work during like the Great War, like for those, like, because he was an older man, doing like stuff on the home front. There was one other thing I meant to say, I'm just trying to remember. Give me 2 seconds. There was something else I forgot about his life. That'll come to me after the video's gone. But I'm going to try and put some pictures into the video of him, because I have got quite a few of him. But when you think, oh, that was going to say, so my mum's still alive today, she's 70. And she remembers him. So if she'd asked her great-granddad, Joseph Robert Gowling, can you tell me about your granddad? Well, because his dad was so old when he was in his 40s when he had him, his granddad was born back in 1788. So just shows you how we're not that far apart in terms of generations to get back to people who knew about people from the past and so on. So I'm just going to leave the video there. So that was just my own little personal story about my great-great-grandfather and his final resting place. A lot of his children, well, not so much his children, Agnes's brothers and sisters are buried around here, but they didn't have much money, so there isn't, I've never found their graves, and they didn't. But also the Coward family sort of had a checkered history as well, because Agnes's brother, he got done for, let's just say, I can't use the word on YouTube, trying to I'll say the word ravish a young servant girl on her way back to the farm just outside Barnard Castle, and he got sent to prison for that. Another sister, the one I mentioned before, died in the lunatic asylum. Another brother, he lost about 7 or 8 infants in a relatively short space of time. And there was another sister who had at least 5 illegitimate children. No fathers were ever mentioned, and she kept getting them baptised at St Mary's Parish Church. So I bet she had a story to tell. I think she was Laura Coward. There isn't anybody called Coward left in Barnard Castle. The name sort of died out, and there's a rabbit over there. So I'm going to end this video now, and thank you very much for watching. If you did enjoy it, please give it a like, and if you want to click on the subscribe, and it'll help grow the channel. So thank you very much for watching, and if you ever want to come and visit this place, you can either come in through Victoria Road, or there's a lane up from the town centre called the Lonnon up to here. So on that note, I will see you next time, and thanks for watching.